UFO Channel.
Ranchers continue to find animals that are horribly mutilated. Eyes, tongues, genital organs, and other body parts that are removed with surgical precision, leaving not a single drop of blood. Oftentimes, the animals have been totally drained of their blood. No signs of human activity around the cadaver, and in all these years not a single red act. Reports are coming from all over the world, and it's not just cows that suffer these mutilations. All kinds of animals, big or small, have been reported mutilated. Cattle mutilation is an ongoing phenomenon and has been investigated by the FBI in the 1970s. It has received renewed interest from the media recently. After all the recent new developments in the UFO field, is the cattle mutilation mystery the next subject to be seriously investigated by the authorities? What are the bone-chilling details of these cattle mutilations? And who or what could possibly be carrying out these horrific acts, and what have researchers got to say? Let's find out in this video. Although a spike in reports of cattle mutilations urged the FBI to conduct research in the 1970s, the phenomenon continued ever since. The videos show carcasses found with body parts removed in a very strange fashion. In August 2022, in Delta Junction, Alaska, ranchers found the remains of a cow that was missing eyes, udder, and reproductive organs. In July 2020, rancher David Hunt discovered that one of his Black Angus cows was mutilated on his ranch in Fossil, Oregon. The animal was found in a very peculiar, almost kneeled position, its feet neatly folded under the body. Its head was in half-raised position, which made the rancher think the animal was still alive. But as he got closer, he saw the animal was dead, and David found out it had been mutilated. The animal was missing its tongue, the udder and vaginal tissue were removed, and there was not a single drop of blood anywhere around the carcass. Investigation by the local police showed no signs of footprints, no tire tracks. There were no shot wounds, no evidence of strangulation, and no tracks of poisoning. According to the local sheriff, there was no way that this animal had died of natural causes and ended up in this strange position. It was not the first time rancher David Hunt had to deal with this phenomenon. In December 2019, he came across another mutilation on his ranch. The animal's nose, eyes, tongue, lips, ears, and tail were removed, and there was a significant amount of blood drained. It was winter and the landscape was covered in snow, but not a single drop of blood was to be seen anywhere around the mutilated animal. Also, Oklahoma was struck by a mysterious cattle mutilation in 2020. On November 11th, rancher Cody Zimmerman found two newly born calves dead in the field. The calves were barely 24 hours old when Zimmerman found them. The cadavers were still warm, and the rancher immediately noticed the gruesome injuries on the young animals. They were both males and were missing eyes. Their penis and anus were cut out with surgical precision. Also, the testicles were removed. Very peculiar was the fact that the scrotum was intact, so the testicles must have been removed from the inside. The heart was also removed through a diamond-shaped incision in the breast. Also in this case, there were no tracks, no blood, no signs of human activity around the animals whatsoever. Zimmerman was so upset that he immediately handed out a reward for any information leading to the perpetrators. However, these brutal cases are not limited to the US alone. About 10 years ago, rancher Mick Cook in North Queensland, Australia began finding mutilated cattle on his huge, remote cattle station. When he found the first mutilated animals, he didn't know much about the phenomenon and dismissed it as predator kills or as a result of drought. But 2 years ago, when he found another killed animal, he noticed that some body parts were surgically removed. Again, no tracks, no blood, no signs of predators. Cook and his wife noticed that the cuts were so neatly done that it almost seemed as if the wounds were somehow sealed immediately after the cut. Even more strange was the fact that the flesh around or behind the removed body parts was still completely intact. Layers of microscopic translucent flesh behind a removed eye were still intact. They doubted if even well-trained surgeons could perform these cuts in a lab-like environment. The cases were investigated by a veterinarian who admits he has no clue as to who or what could be responsible for these acts. He told that there was even one case in which the third stomach of a cow was removed, leaving the other two stomachs completely intact. In his own words, "That just can't be done. To remove the third stomach you would have to move the other two, and I just cannot comprehend how that could be done without spilling their contents or leaving a huge amount of blood on the ground." there was just none. It is clear that next to the economic damage for the ranchers, seeing their cattle brutally mutilated is maybe even worse. Over the last 50 years, the phenomenon of cattle mutilation has been investigated by different researchers and journalists. Also, the FBI conducted research in the 1970s trying to find an explanation for the chilling phenomenon. They concluded that some cases could be explained by predators or other more earthly causes, but a vast amount of cases remained a mystery. After comparing many cases of animal mutilation, it's clear that they have some interesting things in common. The most important are the following. 1. The absence of traces of blood, and a part or all the blood was drained from the animal. 2. The mutilations are done with surgical precision. 3. Body parts that are missing in most cases are tongue, eyes, heart, udders, reproductive organs, anus, and skin tissue. 4. In many cases the animals are around 5 years old. 5. There are no tracks or traces of human activity. 6. Big predators such as coyote, wolves, wild dogs, or domestic dogs will not come near the carcasses. It's as if something drives them away. Extensive research on the topic was done by investigative journalist Linda Moulton Howe, who received an award for her best-selling book on animal mutilation. In her book, called An Alien Harvest, she was involved in numerous cases of cattle mutilation, and together with pathologist and hematologist Dr. John Altshuler, she made some interesting discoveries. Altshuler did microscopic tests on the tissue and the incisions and concluded that the tissue must have been cut with some kind of high-heat instruments. He compared the mutilation tissue with incisions in normal tissue and discovered that the mutilation tissue showed that the hemoglobin and collagen were cooked. Remarkably, the edges of the cuts showed no signs of carbon grains that would show in case of a laser cut. This raises the important question: what technology is able to cut the tissue at high temperatures without leaving carbon traces behind? It is a fact that in many mutilation cases, there have also been reports of UFOs just before or after the events took place. In his 2016 book called The 37th Parallel, author Ben Mesrich investigated cattle mutilations. He discovered that across the USA, for 5,000 kilometers along the latitude of the 37th parallel north of the equator, there have been numerous officially reported and well-documented cases of animal mutilations. He suggests that the evidence of there being a link between UFO sightings and cattle mutilations is overwhelming. During his research on the phenomenon, he spoke to Chuck Zukowski, a former reserve sheriff's deputy in Colorado. Zukowski was involved in the research of over 10,000 mutilation cases of cows and horses that were all missing organs and were completely drained of their blood. A massive FBI research by over 100 agents failed to give any explanation for the mutilations. Just like the UFO phenomenon, the cattle mutilations are another controversial but at the same time very real topic that needs some serious attention. Could it be that this is the next unexplained phenomenon that will be picked up for extensive and serious further research by the government in the near future?
If you would like to continue to grow your mind, please push the subscribe button.